Hi there, Tanya here. Now, I've just come off a radio interview and we talked about part 4 of my book, From Grief to Greatness. And part 4 is all about loving again later in life. Now, whether you've been through a bereavement, whether you're single, whether you have been through a divorce, any form of loss, and you are wanting to love again later in life, well, I encourage you to take that journey within. Fall in love with you first and learn to face loneliness without needing to run from it. Learn to deal with the stuff that makes us want to run into a new relationship, thinking that will make us feel whole. I talk a lot in this interview about how we are so tempted to run from pain. And running into a new relationship too soon is often what we do. I talk about listening to your intuition, finding out what you really love and what brings you joy in life. Find out more about you. And instead of feeling that you've got to go out there and find someone and do everything to try and bring someone into your life, why not just let go of the reins and allow it to happen? Anyway, wait around and then you will listen to the radio interview straight away. Bye for now and have a great weekend.
No matter who you are, no matter what you do, no matter the privilege or the circumstances that you're grown into, just doing life and loving people is going to leave some scars. And somebody who knows all too well that living life well comes at a cost is Tanya Unkovich. She joins us now. Tanya, kia ora, good afternoon.
Kia ora, how are you both?
You're doing well.
Doing well. Now, Tanya, we've mentioned this a few times, but in the last little while you've been quite busy. You've written not just one, but 2 books. Now, you've got some details on one of those books, From Grief to Greatness. Now, that's actually coming out early January or mid-January. Have I got that correct?
That is correct. The publisher told me that they've got a release date towards the end of January. So at least we now know.
Yes.
Which is great news.
It is great news, actually, because, look, I know in some ways you think, oh, gosh, if it only had arrived a little bit earlier. But actually, if people are getting book vouchers as Christmas presents, they're wanting to start a new you for the new year and all of that stuff. Apparently that's the thing. Then this would be a great book to start the new year with. Maybe it's God's timing, Tanya.
Everything is God's timing. Absolutely. I totally agree. So there's a reason. So you might feel a little bit to start with, and then you go, oh, no, actually, it's not my problem. It isn't a problem, in fact, and you just let it go.
Yeah. Now, we've been talking through this book over the last few weeks, and we're going to continue doing so. I was just thinking, before we get into today's topic, loving again later in life, could you just refresh us with some of the things that we've looked at over the last few weeks, maybe just the headlines as such?
Yeah, sure. Well, the book is called From Grief to Greatness. So it's a journey. And I always say to everyone, once you know how to master your emotional state, then you can master everything. So part 1 is all about mastering your emotional state. Then part 2 is the grief journey, whether it be bereavement, separation, divorce, loss of a family member, loss of elderly parents. It's about talking through that grief journey.
Yeah.
The third part is taking care of your physical self on that journey. Whether you're going through the grief journey, whether you're a caregiver, you must take care of your physical health.
Now, we're talking beforehand about how living life leaves scars. Today's topic, looking about loving again later in life. Certainly that has been your own journey, your own testimony, how God saw you through that, and some good things have come out of that. But with grief, there's always going to be scars. There's always going to be areas of sensitivity. Important for us, yes, even as we move into good things and blessings that God has for us, to acknowledge those scars, perhaps even not to be ruled by them, but to acknowledge them and make room for them, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I talk about those other topics in those first 3 parts, because it's me encouraging the reader to say, look after yourself, develop your emotional state, acknowledge the grief, feel grief, Because if we don't do that, then we may rush into a new relationship, or it may not even just be a relationship. It could be anything. But a lot of people will run or rush into a new relationship because they are still grieving, or they're not taking their care of themselves physically. So they're looking for that high from another human being. So there's a reason that I've put this a little later on in the book.
So when it comes to that, sort of decision, actually, I'm doing okay. I would love to find someone else in my life. Is there a decision point in this one, or is it something that just kind of happens more naturally?
When you said I'm ready to find someone, I always say to people, let that word go and just get into a relationship with yourself first.
Okay.
Be you first, and then allow whoever is meant to be in your life to come into your life. I often say to people, you don't need to go out on a mission. It doesn't need to be work. Just get into that relationship with yourself first and be okay in your own being, on your own. Learn to sit with loneliness and live life. And as you're living life, you'll learn even more about you on who you want to share the rest of your life with.
If you're so determined to, I've got to fill this relational gap, I've got to hunt somebody down and bag them, like a trophy. I mean, that's probably the least attractive thing when it comes to starting a lifelong relationship with somebody, right?
Yeah, look, they'll see you coming and they'll run a mile because you're bound to clobber them once or twice, right? So it's, that's why I always encourage, take that journey with and fall in love with yourself first and give yourself permission to love again, because what comes with grief is guilt, and then you feel ashamed for loving someone else again. And, you've got to work through so many things because it's so easy to run from grief. And it doesn't mean that it's wrong if you meet someone really soon at all. It's just really just allow the process rather than try and force something, because that never works.
Now, you've got your own story when it comes to this as well, Tanya, and I know that we don't really have enough time to go through all of it, but how did you know for yourself that actually, I am ready?
I had to make a few mistakes and then go, hey, Tanya, go back and feel the grief. Go back and listen to your heart, because I found I was listening to what other people thought I should be doing with my life, and went, okay, you know what, this is a journey for me, and I'm actually going to call God in on this one and say, help me to sit with the grief. I really had to do that. And then I just let go. I just let go and just trusted God truthfully and made sure that I was okay with loneliness, so I didn't make any decisions from a place of loneliness.
Did you have a bit of a wish list in the background, kind of like a must-haves list, like you do perhaps if you, looking for a new a new couch or something like that? I don't know. But did you have a list of, hey, these are the sorts of things I'm looking for in a relationship. These are the type of attributes I'm looking for in a life partner. Did you have that list even in the background?
Yes, I did have something, but more importantly, excuse me, what I had was a list of what I didn't want.
Okay.
And that was the gift of making a couple of mistakes. And I don't even want to call them mistakes. They were learning experiences, right? But it was learning what I don't want. But more importantly, the list was, who is Tanya?
Yeah.
What do I want for my life, and how will I be able to integrate another person in my life without making them my life, without putting aside my desires, So there were a couple of lists, you might say, 2 or 3 lists. But yeah, I really encouraged myself to just feel the grief, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, it is often really hard to sit in something, isn't it? And I think, that's where something like, reading a chapter in a book can be quite helpful to go, actually, it's okay to be here. I don't need to rush this process. This is actually a process in itself, just sitting in that grief and, overcoming some of those things that perhaps, I can't just push away. I need to confront. So anything else would you suggest, say, if you were talking to a client about this, that they could do if this is something that's a part of their life?
Number one, follow your instinct. Well, it may not be number one, but definitely up there on the list.
Yep.
Follow your instinct. We so want to hear what everyone else thinks. Well, what do you think of that person? Stop doing that. Take the time and listen to your intuition. And the other thing is, start living life joyfully so that you know what makes you happy and what fills your life up. And don't expect another person to fill that gap.
Such good wisdom and advice, and hey, plenty more of that, of course, in the book From Grief to Greatness. We have a date now, mid-January, so people
late January.
Late January,
I got
is
it
it
wrong to begin with. Yeah.
Okay, late January, but people can put that on their gift register for Christmas, perhaps, or a book voucher. It is going to be available in bookstores from late January. Tanya, thank you so much for sharing your life, your heart, and the wisdom that God has shown you from this book, Grief to Greatness. Thanks for being on the program today.
You are welcome.